The CEDS committee members. Couple list. That's hard for the musical chairs.
And we are officially unmuted.
Good morning, Dave. Good morning, Jonathan. How are you?
Well, here you go.
Doing very well, thank you. Good to see you all.
Good to see
You, let's see. Boy, we had all of these RSVP. And right now, I believe there's 2 of you there. So let's give it a few minutes.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. It's Newton.
Hi, Newton. How are you?
Yeah, it was great.
I'm driving to I'm going to a board meeting down in Miami, so I just had to join it via phone.
Okay.
Okay, drive safe.
Well, since we had many more RSVPs than we do now, but it is only 10:01. I'm going to give it, I normally start the meeting.
I see Dr. Winsby just joined us from NOLA.
John, how are you?
Good morning. Hope all is well.
Joining? Okay, well, I was just saying, I'm going to give, and I actually know that there is no parking here today because I had to park across the street. So I will give people until 10:04 or 10:05 before I formally start the meeting. Meantime, did everybody have a good weekend?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. I mean, my Canes and my Dolphins did what they needed to do, so I feel great.
Yes, my Dolphins did what they need to do, and my Knowles are number 3 in the nation, so I'm a happy boy too.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Right. And by the way, everybody seems to think that the Canes and Knowles are arch enemies. I never found that. I think it's just everybody hates the Gators. But we always, you know, when I was at FSU, we always got along fine with the Canes.
I don't know about that one.
Whereas when I was
it's friendly fire, but I do think there's a little bit of a ruffle sometimes.
there is, but not as bad as with the Gators. Of course, when I was back at FSU, they were still playing in leather helmets and no, slight exaggeration. Slight exaggeration. I can actually tell you, Bobby Bowden and I started together in 1976. Not a well-known fact.
Wow.
One of his sons, who was the Auburn head football coach, is actually an attorney, and he and I went to law school together.
Oh, wow.
And then he decided to make money and become a football coach and was very successful. Okay, 10:03. I'm going to give it another 1 to 2 minutes, and then we'll be starting, I promise. Hey, Bob.
Oh, great.
We'll be starting no later than 10:05. Good morning, Bob. How are you? You're on mute, Bob.
On his way here.
Okay.
I'm on my way there. I should be there in a couple minutes.
Okay. You may need to park across the street. I did. There's no parking here.
Okay, thank you.
There might be parking now, but it wasn't 10 minutes ago. But, oh, right, okay.
So decisions and
Gotcha.
consequences.
Yes, and they're now circling. Let's see, James.
So the only ones missing is, Dr. Hale, well, James Constant is subbing for Roger Miller,
Okay,
Yeah.
and Rick Beasley.
okay, well, why don't everybody here is busy, so why don't we start and try and get this done relatively quickly. Before we start, I will just ask, today is 9/11. I'm wearing my 9/11 pin. I was actually up at Ground Zero a month after 9/11. I was the co-chair of the Committee on Terrorism Insurance for National Conference of Insurance Legislators. So I will ask if we can just have 1 minute or
Yes,
a
please.
moment of silence for all of the many people that died in 9/11. Thank you. And now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What happened? Can you bring faces back for a moment?
Sure.
Okay,
Well, we always want to look at faces, Rhonda.
unless we're looking at documents.
I
Okay.
mean, can't you
Right.
can't you do like
Just
the
look
little
strange.
profile on the top and the document on the bottom?
Okay, I don't know how to do any of that.
There's Daniel. Hello, Daniel. Welcome.
I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. Everybody remembers the CEDS if you went through that process. I think we can justifiably be very, very proud of the document that we created. But it's time to do an update. So we're here today for two reasons. Number one, to briefly discuss an update, and number two, I have served in my 35 years of government service on many, many blue ribbon committees. And I cannot recall one that was quite as blue ribbony as this one. And I would hate to, once we've assembled that group, to see it go to waste. So I'm going to try and co-opt us, as I had previously said, for another topic. First, let me remind everybody, mute your microphones when you're not speaking, but also unmute when you are speaking. Because I frequently see a lot of people trying to talk and they forget to unmute. So we are required to prepare not only the CEDS for the Economic Development Agency or administration or agency.
Economic Development.
Economic
Administration.
Development Administration of the United States Department of Commerce. We are now required to do the annual report, the update, which will identify and report on key economic development trends and progress made by the council and regional stakeholders in furthering economic resilience through our activities, programs, and initiatives. As part of this update, we'll be reporting on your great work and we'll be asking your assistance in compiling your initiatives and achievements. So, for all of you there, we will email you another copy of the CEDS, assuming that you don't happen to have it at the top of your desk. I don't know why I keep mine proudly framed. And we would like in the last year, if you can look at the CEDS or any of the programs that you have been working on the last year that further the CEDS or the goals of the CEDS, we would like you to report back to us so that we can include that in our report. In a few minutes, we're going to have a short presentation to refresh the committee on the CEDS. Now, we did have to change the date of this meeting and schedule this on 2 or 3 weeks notice. And that's why I'm attributing that we only have about a third of the CEDS members present. Yes. Okay, right. And when council staff has completed the draft annual report, what we will be doing is distributing it to all members of the CEDS committee. I realize there's no point in my looking at the TV because you just see my profile. So camera's up there, right? So when we have completed the draft annual report, we'll distribute it to the CEDS committee for review and comment. And then we will schedule a meeting to consider any amendments and to vote on the annual update. Report will then be submitted to the South Florida Regional Planning Council for their approval prior to posting for public comment and submitting the EDA. And this says the EDA is due in November, and it appears we have 2 or 3 months worth of work there. So we're going to have to do things quickly. At this point in time, I would like to ask our executive director, Isabel Cosio, to introduce one of our new staff members, our director of research. Isabel?
Yes, so I'm really delighted to introduce to you Randy DeShazo. So Randy comes to us from the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. He's a seasoned professional. He is coming and joining the council as deputy director, chief of staff, and also director of research, which is very skilled at economic development research, all sorts of data research. So I wanted to make sure to introduce you to him today. I am overjoyed, as you might imagine, to have him on board with us. And then if we could really quickly just do a quick introduction so he has a better sense of who you are, because these are all of our, these are our region's leaders here. So Randy, if you want to just say something, and I think
Sure.
Councilman Bell's on his way up, so.
Sure, I'll just add that at Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, one of the things that I did was I managed the Economic Development District, which is the framework for the funds that EDA uses to funnel funds and investments into your respective regions. We also worked a lot on various kinds of discretionary grants that we are awarded from EDA, including manufacturing supply chain study and even disaster recovery tabletop exercise that was centered on small businesses. But a lot of what I do really is centered on economic analysis. So if you have an interest in target industry studies, I've also done work with industrial land, so putting together a county-wide strategy for industrial land, and other kinds of modeling questions, worked on small business profiles, all kinds of things that you might find helpful in your work. And so I invite you to contact me, and I'm happy to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Our new deputy director.
Okay, and let me now ask people to introduce themselves. I'll call on you in the order that I see on the screen. Dave Deck.
Good morning. It's good to meet you. My name is Dave Deck. I'm the executive director at SFRTA that operates Tri-Rail. Been here in South Florida for about a year. Been playing with trains for, I don't know, going on about 27 or 28 years now, and very happy to be here. It's good to meet everybody.
Thank you. John Wensveen, Dr. Wensveen.
Good morning, John Wensveen, Chief Innovation Officer at Nova Southeastern University and Executive Director of the Levant Center of Innovation, the world's first theme park for entrepreneurs.
That's very funny. Daniel Samus.
Maybe it's Dr. Wardera.
He's muted.
Daniel, are you there?
No.
I'll take that as a no.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry about
Okay.
that. Daniel Samus, CEO, Greater Marathon Chamber of Commerce. We handle a lot of the, when the opportunities arise, economic development initiatives for the Florida Keys, Monroe County, as well as the economic disaster recovery when those unfortunate situations occur. And we also are the EDO partner with Enterprise Florida. Pleasure to be here.
Michael Bateman.
Good morning, Michael Bateman, Vice President of Quality Assurance with CareerSource Broward. I'm here for Carol Hilton. We had a conflict. She's our President and CEO. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on. Okay. Dr. Guevara.
Good morning. Jonathan Guevara, President, CEO of the College of the Florida Keys. I want to apologize for my colleague from Marathon. They always have phone problems up there. And I also have a question, Mr. Chair. You mentioned the getting to you programs that we've contributed to that would have contributed to the goals for the CEDS.
Yes, sir.
Is there a deadline for when you need that, or are we putting those into the draft when you send it out?
No, we'd like you to send it to us as soon as possible because that information, it will be incorporated into the draft. We really have like probably a month to get the draft done, so we don't want to keep going back and forth with different versions.
But this is not a lengthy.
Right.
It's not,
No,
it's
it's
a
just-
couple sentences.
Yeah.
Does end of October work for you, Dr. Guevara?
Yeah, that's fine.
No,
Or early, no?
no, beginning of October, well, that we need to have it,
Right,
because we have to do a public notice for 30 days first.
right. That's what I was thinking. We have to do the
Yeah, so
public notice.
Probably the first
We have
week
to
of
do the
October.
SFRPC, and if it's due in November, you know, we're starting a little late. Okay. So,
Thank you.
Dr. Rivera, if you can get it, but we're not talking about length, you're talking about a couple of sentences listing any
Yeah.
achievements that have been done.
We'll be able to show everyone an example of another region who used that approach that might be helpful,
Great,
and we can send along.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Newton?
Good morning, everybody. Newton Stanton, President and CEO OIC of South Florida. We're a community-based workforce development organization. We have operations in Dade, Broward, about 200 employees throughout the area, offering labor market informed credentials and eliminating barriers for people to come into economic mobility. So happy to be here. I got to jump off at 11. I got an Orange Bowl board meetings I'm heading to, but happy to be here. Take care. Bye.
I'm hoping we can be done by 11-ish.
Yes.
Okay, James Constman?
Good morning, everybody. James Constam with the Miami-Dade Beacon Council. I'm the Executive Vice President leading economic development programs here on behalf of our CEO, Mike Finney. Sorry to have my camera off. I'm actually home with a cold today, but happy to be part of the conversation and supporting Isabel and team. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
James, you said Mike Finney.
Oh my gosh, did I?
Afraid so.
Yeah.
We understand.
Wow.
We know, we miss him too.
That's yeah, I guess that rolls off the tongue. Rod Miller, our CEO. Thank you, Newton.
Bob?
My pleasure.
Good morning. I'm Bob Swindell, President and CEO of the Greater Fort Worth Alliance, the economic development organization for Broward County.
And the other members of the CEDS that are not here today are Rick Beasley, Executive Director, Career Source, Dr. Greg Haley, Broward, President of Broward College, Roderick Miller, I'm sorry, yes, you're here for Beacon Council is here. Okay. TJ Villamil from Senior VP of International Trade and Business Development of Enterprise Florida, Oliver Gross, President of New Urban Development, the Miami Urban League, Dr. George Hanbury, President of Nova Southeastern, who was extremely active in our group.
We have Dr. Winston from.
I know, but they were both.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Wensveen was more here, we thought, for the Levan Center.
Oh, okay.
Karine Boutros, Executive Director of the Broward Workshop, Anna Carolina Moran, who is the District Resiliency Officer of the South Florida Water Management District, Randall Vitale, President of BBX Capital Partners, Drew Bartlett, Executive Director of the South Florida Water Management District, Joe Corradino, who at the time, I don't think he still is, was President of Miami-Dade League of Cities.
Right, he may need to change out.
Yeah, we would need to change him out for current one. Nelson Fernandez, Executive Vice President of A&F Construction, which is the largest Hispanic-owned contractor, I believe, in the States.
It's great.
Yeah, Lynn Goldman, Community Relations Coordinator for Broward Technical Colleges, Madeline Pumarega, President of Miami-Dade College, Dan Reynolds, President of the Broward County AFL-CIO, Juliette Rulak, Director of External Affairs of FPL, and Jared Smith, Chair of South Florida Hospital Association. And yes, I do know that we just were told that Dr. Hanbury is traveling in Europe And I spoke with Dr. Hanberry before he left and actually communicated with him while he was gone via email
He's great.
on a transit matter.
Yeah.
So at this point in time, let me turn it over to Geralda for a brief presentation on the CEDS goals and action plan. Geralda.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to make note, Lynn Goldman retired, so we may need to get another a representative for Lynn Goldman.
Thank you.
He's excellent. Yeah.
That's what happens when you go off of a year-old membership. A lot of people, change positions.
This is all right, perfect. I will keep this short. You all have the presentation, the goals that I sent you last week. But as Senator Yeller mentioned earlier, the main purpose is if you have any programs that align with any of the goals that you see here, either competitive economy, mobility or access and mobility, design, construction, infrastructure, and regional collaboration, then please send them over to us when you get a chance. So just so you get an idea, there it is. Okay, so right, priority goal 1, cultivate a competitive economy and foster economic mobility. I think Dr. Weinstein, you've sent us a couple of your projects last year when we were working on the CEDS. And if you can send me a quick email to let me know if any of those projects have been implemented or you still need funding for, you're still in process of drafting your strategic, vision for those projects. Just any information you can send me, I would really appreciate it. And then we'll update those projects as well as part of the CEDS implementation portion. So, perfect. And Mr. Bateman, workforce development in Newton as well, Mr. Sandman as well. If you have any of your projects that you submitted to us, please, same thing, let us know. And if there are any other projects that you have accomplished since last year, then just let us know. You need a brief description of what that project has accomplished. And preferably, if you can tell us, how much of it is accomplished, okay, if not, no worries at all, we'll just put it as general. So as you can see, for each goal, we have potential implementation partners. I will reach out to some of them because they're all like, for instance, like Chambers of Commerce, some of you are here. James and Daniel, if you could please let us know if any of your projects, anything that aligns with this goal or any of the other following goals, same deal, let us know. Again, here's the one is to increase the overall quality of life for mobility and access. David, if you could, same thing, SFRTA, I'll reach out to Fort Lauderdale DDA as well, because they submitted a couple of projects. And well, I guess Bob as well, if you know of any projects in the greater Fort Lauderdale, just let us know as well. Here is design, construct, resilient infrastructure, which is water, wastewater, solid waste, and housing. I was going to ask Dr. Moran, I'll follow up with her because she's great actually at following through if they have any projects on that. So there's another one, potential, same deal, sustainable land development patterns. If any of the actions that are listed here for each objective under each goal, if you have undertaken, just let us know, please, so we can include them in our annual report. And this is, of course, regional collaboration. We're all working together. We just finished, we worked with stakeholders from Palm Beach County to Monroe and Miami-Dade for the regional tech hub application that was submitted through Miami-Dade County.
And Nova.
Hopefully we'll win it. It's a lot of money.
So we did 2 applications, Miami-Dade County led,
Yes.
Nova the other.
Yes. So first one was Miami-Dade County focusing on climate resilience, and the second one was Nova University focusing on medical tech. So hopefully we'll get one of those and continue to work, because I thought it was a great conversation that happened. It was more than 100 stakeholders from Palm Beach County to Miami-Dade. And that's about it. So those.
Okay.
That's it. If you
Could
have
you
any
pull up an
questions.
example of one of the, so that the board members have an idea of what we're asking for?
Well, I don't have it on this computer in here, and I didn't add it because we thought, we can, it's okay.
It's all right, we
As
will
long as they
send an
us-
example so you can see that
Right.
it's a very simple little framework. And, members, what we're trying to do is highlight the EVA, the good work you're doing, the progress that has been made towards implementation of the goals. It's not meant to be a time sink for you or complicated, you're very busy. But that will help us also to, become more familiar with what you're doing. And also identify additional opportunities to give assistance, but also again, be able to report on the progress that's being made through said implementation.
And Isabel and Arolda, I believe that we will probably, it would be helpful to convene the executive committee, which we can probably do on Zoom, because I can think of a number of items that Broward County has done to advance them. I'm sure Senator Garcia can tell us some things that Dade County has done in terms of advancement. Quite candidly, a lot of what we're doing at the SFRPC
Correct.
has been things in advancement of that, particularly. I think a lot of you are familiar with their solid waste meeting last year. When are we having our?
October 20th, we're having the 7 County Recycling Conference.
Yes, so if you're not aware of it, on October 20th at the Broward Performing Arts Center, we're having a all-day meeting with top experts on recycling, which has become an extremely controversial topic. At least I know in Dade and Broward County. I'm sure in Monroe, because there's really no place to put things there. So if you have not yet been signed up for that, have we sent out?
There's coming out today, I think.
Okay, the invitations apparently are going out today or tomorrow, but you should be aware and sign up for that. We'll go up that time now. Yes.
Sure, I would just like to mention also, the annual report also will have a robust data analysis section that Mr. Yashazo Randy will be preparing for us as Director of Research. So he will be looking at economic trends and other trends. Again, to the extent that there's data available, if you want to send us topics that you would like to see how they're trending, we would try to accommodate that within time and data availability. So it's a two-part thing. One is the state of the economic resilience of the region. Are we moving towards economic resilience? These are the indicators, these are the trends, and then also highlighting specific activities that you're involved in that are moving it forward, like Broward Up. I know you're involved with Broward College on that, and have been working for years. So and there were programs that you were doing with single mothers. There's a lot of things that are going on that I think would, it's good to brag about our region and the progress we're making.
Good. All right. So since I want to save time for our other topic, let me say that we will be sending letters to all of the members of the CEDS, repeating what I've just told you, and asking everybody to please submit documents. Now, the next topic is interesting. As I said, I've never served on as blue ribbon a committee as this one. And we've assembled a group. I doubt any of the other CEDS in Florida had a group like we did. When we've assembled this group of leaders that worked so hard, I am candidly reluctant to let it go and not do anything else with it. Our name is our topic. We are the South Florida Regional Planning Council. We don't do enough regional planning. I mean, we are the regional convening group, but I think we just need to be doing more regional planning as a region. So what I was looking for are trying to get this group, which is CEO level of the movers and shakers in South Florida, to meet and act kind of to pick a single individual topic and put all of the collective brain power and resources of all of the groups here today to try and come up with a topic to discuss. We have come up with 5 potential topics. Then when I'm done with this, I'm gonna ask if anybody else has any idea. Today, I'd like to narrow it to 3 potential topics and then send this out to all of the members of the CEDS committee for their understanding. Let me briefly go over the 5 that we have. Number 1 is recycling. As I said, we're doing a major program on that in October, I'm sorry, October 20th. The whole issue of recycling and solid waste is extremely controversial, and we need to do something. I know here in Broward, both in Dayton and Broward, our landfills are scheduled to be filled within a reasonable number of years in the foreseeable future. We're gonna have to do something about that. Now, if we are able to increase recycling substantially, we will be able to do something. If we were, right now, the plan is we're probably gonna need to add a burner here in Broward, which is going to be extremely controversial because everybody wants one someplace else. This is the ultimate NIMBY. I know that Dade, which just recently had a fire at their recycling plant, not that recently, but a few months ago, also is having these huge issues. So recycling, again, it's controversial because it used to be you could make money from recycling. Now it's more expensive than landfill. Governments are gonna have to understand they want recycling, they're gonna have to pay for it, and so are the voters. The days of single stream recycling are over. In order to make recycling work, we're going to need multiple streams, probably separate bins for glass, plastic, metal, paper, or something like that. So again, the whole recycling topic is an important one. Second potential is the silver tsunami. If anybody ever looks at the retirement statistics, it's terrifying. Most people have, I think, remember, big difference between the average and the median. The average that I saw was somewhere around 700,000, but the median was only around 125,000 because you have a small number of people that have millions and millions in their retirement accounts, and then most people have 75, 100, 200,000. Under the famous 4% rule, if you have 200,000 in savings, you can take 4% out per year. That's $8,000. That's not going to go very far for anybody. Additionally, we have so many people in the gig economy that are so happy. Oh, look, I'm getting paid in cash, or I'm not having them take, things out of my paycheck. But I'm assuming that Congress will find a way to fully fund Social Security. But if you're not paying into Social Security now, you're going to get very little to nothing later on. So this gig economy is absolutely a two-edged sword. We're seeing now with this whole condominium issue, people are going to be kicked out of their condominiums because what they did for decades was avoid paying their maintenance fees. They would waive the reserves. And now they're being hit with very large bills, 20, 50, 80,000 special assessments. And people that are on fixed income and have never thought they were going to live this long simply don't have the money. And in fact, the fastest growing component of homelessness is among seniors. So the whole silver tsunami is a topic worth discussing. Again, to see with all of these businesses, how can we help deal with that? The issue of, yes, sir.
I just wanted to add one more thing to the Social Security conversation and the part that you talk about with regard to people in the gig economy. Not only will they not be receiving but by them not paying in, it means that the whole system is potentially in trouble because we kind of have a little bit of a Ponzi scheme going on with Social Security right now.
You are correct. It's now, people are paying today while they're working to take care of people collecting today. And I think it's 33, 34, roughly 8 or 10 years, the surplus is supposed to be gone, at which point they're looking at somewhere around, I believe it's a 26 or 27% reduction, which I don't think will happen, but we're going to have to do something. And by the way, with 401ks, if anybody, and IRAs, if anybody is familiar with this, these were never intended to replace pensions. They were intended to supplement them, but instead employers found it much cheaper to use them as a replacement. So an additional topic number 3, 1 was recycling, 2 with the silver tsunami, number 3 is the whole affordable housing crisis, and it is a crisis. And I know a lot of people have been looking. We have the SFRPC has convened a mayor's conference. Isabel, when is our next meeting on that?
September 29th. It's
Right, it's
pretty much a
right,
Zoom.
but where we have the mayors of Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, because Monroe has its own unique needs. But actually, I think the mayor of Monroe is coming. Right.
No, Monroe's invited.
Right.
They're part of
Yeah,
it.
I think I saw them RSVP.
Yeah, so
Where
we're
we
good.
can talk about, and again, South Florida is unique because if you are, one of our main reasons for the affordability crisis is the cost of land. And the reason for this is if you're in Cleveland, there's, I know it's a Great Lake, so I know they have water, otherwise I'd have said Phoenix or Dallas. But if you're someplace that has sufficient water and the cost of housing in the downtown core rises too high, you just sprawl out another mile and the land is much cheaper there. In South Florida, if you build any further east or west, you get your feet wet. North or south are fully developed. So there's only one direction left to go, that's vertical, and that in vertical construction, you're building 30-story condos, they're gonna cost more. And they're in the downtowns where people wanna live. So again, that's one of the issues with affordable housing. There are so many, candidly, affordable housing is affordability in South Florida, Central Florida are always the least affordable in the nation. And the reason for that they're always the least affordable in the nation is how you measure unaffordability. By the way, I see that Randall Vitale, president of BBX Capital, has joined us. Thank you, Mr. Vitale. So the housing in New York, housing in LA, housing in a lot of areas is a lot more expensive. But so is the average income is much higher. So you calculate affordability by how much you pay as a percentage of average income. And so again, maybe one of the solutions to affordable housing is increasing wages. So that is the third topic. Fourth topic, mass transit.
Mr. Deck.
I was gonna say Mr. Deck's ears perked up when I said that.
I'm sure Mr. Vitale's too.
Yeah.
So,
So, the issue of mass transit is extremely complicated. You've got first the roads, bridges, but then you also have the mass transit. Mass transit, in order to get that working properly, typically, you're going to need park and rides. There's always problems locating the park and rides. The whole first and last mile issue, which can be done with park and rides or can be done. And I know that at least as a Broward County Commissioner, we're seeing a lot of things on this right now. Here in South Florida, the whole issue of the coastal link, which depends substantially on whether or not we ever figure out how we're going to get over, under, around, or through, or time warp around the new river. or something, because the mayor of Fort Lauderdale has said, over my cold dead body, are you going to build a bridge? While the county says, well, great, if you want to pay for the extra cost of the tunnel, go ahead, but, we're only going to pay for the cost of the bridge. And, thus far, there's a lot of deadlock there. But the whole issue of mass transit is something that affects every business in South Florida, just like, candidly, the affordable housing. And if you're not paying attention to the silver tsunami, you ought to. Recycling is not as much of a business, but it is, because businesses can control a lot of their own waste.
Yeah.
The last issue that of the 5 that I wanted to bring up was a continuum of workforce development. Remember when I said maybe we can help solve affordable housing by higher wages? The best way of higher wages is a continuum of workforce development. And I say continuum because I think we can agree that almost anybody that wants a good job needs a post-high school education. However, that post-high school education could be an apprenticeship in a building trade. It could be an apprenticeship in healthcare. It can be a certificate. It can be a 2-year degree at one of the colleges, or what used to be the community colleges. It could be a 4-year degree. It could be a postdoctoral fellowship. But most people need something, and we need to focus on making sure that people are getting this. I chair a group that I've been convening for 5 years now, to try and get more people into the building trades. And by the way, to throw this whole thing in, I just read, I think it was last week, that at the Wharton School of Economics, they tried out, they did an experiment where they had 40 of their top MBA students, and they went up against ChatGPT, and then they went with an enhanced ChatGPT that had been given 3 or 4 hours of training, and their mission was to come up with a new consumer good marketable at less than $50. And 35 of the top 40 choices were from ChatGPT. So the point I'm making on that is that I'm a lawyer. Fortunately, I turned 65 shortly. I hope to practice for another 10 years, maybe. I'm not worried about being replaced by ChatGPT, but if I was a 35-year-old lawyer, I certainly would be, unless I was a trial lawyer, because I don't think they're getting ChatGPT ready yet to argue cases. But I suspect in 20 years, they'll have a robot powered by ChatGPT that will be arguing the case in front of other robots, and people will be superfluous. But this whole issue of continuation, a continuum of workforce development, is something that I think we should be looking at. Those were 5 potential topics. We're only going to pick one. So before I get into discussion on this, I would like to ask, does anybody have any ideas for another topic? Because again, we'll discuss that. We'll narrow to 3 today, and then I will send a letter to all of the members of the CEDS committee to get their input. Does anybody have any additional topics that you would like to suggest we should take up besides recycling, silver tsunami, affordable housing, mass transit, continuum of workforce development? Anyone else? Newton, I know you have to be leaving soon. Did you have any comments or any other ideas?
I think the big one that just is really just hitting our staff even heavily is this whole affordable housing thing. I didn't think I heard you kept covering that one. That one Lord help us on how we figure that out, but the affordable housing issue.
This was the number
is just
three.
one I just have no idea what to do.
Let me
Okay.
repeat,
Yeah,
recycling.
No, he's saying that's his priority.
Oh, okay, that was your priority. Okay. No, I thought he said that you hadn't heard us mention it.
No.
Okay, I apologize.
Yep.
So,
thank you.
recycling, silver tsunami, affordable housing, mass transit, continuum. Before I close it, does anybody else want to bring up any other topic?
Mr.
I
Chair,
realize no notice here.
Dr.
Yeah,
Guevara?
Dr. Guevara.
and maybe this falls under affordable housing, but as we look at the intensity of some of these storms that we've been dealing with, and we talk about affordable housing, I think somewhere in there, those two pieces have to be tied together, because some of our housing stock, I mean, we've been lucky in some areas in South Florida, because I think some of our housing stock is just not ready for an intense storm in some areas.
Oh, that's
For
it.
sure. So that would be the topic known as resilience, which again, the SFRPC has done a lot of work on. I chaired the Broward County Water Board, so we'll add resilience to as an additional topic.
With a specific line to can the housing withstand.
Yeah, that's but that's
Okay.
part of, not really particularly affordable. Yes. Infrastructure maintenance. You know, there, as a longtime politician, I can tell you, everybody brags about building new things. Few people brag about, yes, well, we put $100 million into repainting and waterproofing bridges. And the whole issue of infrastructure maintenance. Well, Dr. Wensby, did you want to have that as infrastructure maintenance or infrastructure in general?
It probably goes better under infrastructure in general. It's a ripple or domino effect that occurs after that. I was just writing a paper the other day, and that was one of the subjects that came up as a big challenge for communities across the country.
It is, and as I've just told you why. It's because if you're a politician and you're saying, hey, I just brought this new road into your area to make traffic less, everybody applauds it. It's sexy, but paying to paint the bridges or keep them waterproofed. I chaired a like 20-member condo study thing in the aftermath of the collapse of the Champlain Towers. And we had 27 hours of hearings. And one of our conclusions is it's much cheaper to properly maintain things than to pay the cost of replacing. So, all right, we now have, is there anything else before I close topics? All right, we have 7 topics, but we're only going to pick 3 today that I'm going to send to the entire group for further discussion. Those 3 topics are recycling, silver tsunami, affordable housing, mass transit, continuum of workforce development, resilience, and infrastructure. Now, I'm going to let you vote as many times as you want, because it's the easiest way of doing it. So if you want to include on the top 3 recycling, raise your hand. I'm looking. All right. I have not seen any hands up for, oh, okay. James Constant,
Yeah.
sorry. One vote for 2 votes. No, it's that, James voting twice. Okay. Okay. So we have under recycling, we have 1 vote. Remember, you can vote more than 1. Silver tsunami. Make that one of our topics.
At the
James,
bottom,
put your
by
hand
the
down.
way, you can click on the button that says raise hand.
Right. Okay. Dr. Guevara.
Is
And
that for resilience,
yeah.
Dr. Guevara?
No, we're now on silver tsunami.
Okay.
Silver tsunami, we have 2 votes. Mr.
Agreed.
Sen, Who's three? I see Guevara and Seven.
Oh, I guess Jim's constant, but his hand down.
Okay, right. So 2 votes for Silver Tsunami. Affordable housing. Dave Deck, John Wensveen, Daniel Samus, okay, I see 5 votes, 6 votes,
I think
I'm
that was
sorry.
unanimous.
Yeah, mass transit, all right, put your hands down, hands down. Okay, mass transit. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay.
Yeah.
Continuum of, hands down,
I'm sure,
he did, I was
okay,
on,
so,
hands down,
Daniel, hands down.
Daniel, hands down. Okay, continuum of workforce development. 1, 2, 3. Okay. That's catapulted, what, 1, 2, 3, okay. Resilience. None, okay. Infrastructure, oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Rivera, 1 vote. Okay, infrastructure. Dave Deck, James Consman, Randall Vitale. 3, 4. John Wensveen, okay.
we got 4. Do I got
So,
5?
it doesn't matter, I only need 4. The top affordable housing was unanimous, mass transit was unanimous. There was a close battle between infrastructure and continuum of workforce development. So I'm actually gonna take a revote. This time you can only vote for 1. Because the 2 that we know are gonna be added are on our top 3 are affordable housing and mass transit. So this time you're gonna be voting between continuum of workforce development and infrastructure, and you can only vote once this time. If you are in favor of making our final topic continuum of workforce development, raise your hand. I see Bateman, I see Wensveen, and those are the only 2 I see. Okay. And if you are in favor of infrastructure, raise your hand. Remember, you can only vote once. I see Constant, Vitale, Deck, and Swindell. All right, so our top, what I'm going to be doing is, and we will be done by 11. What we're going, you can put your hands down now. We don't want the computer to get tired. What I'm going to be doing is over the next 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to ask staff, and I'll have my staff also do some research, my staff, non-SFRPC staff, because you're busy, doing research on affordable housing, mass transit, and infrastructure. Mr. Deck, you should expect some phone calls, because before we take a vote, I'm gonna wanna lay out just a 1-page on the different topics that we should be discussing under each of these 3.
We have to get down to.
Yeah, and then we're gonna say, all right, based on this, we're gonna pick 1. Now, here's what I envision us doing. Any one of these issues is going to have a lot of different subparts. Infrastructure, again, has been pointed out, difference between construction, maintenance, etc. Although, since it was a solid 3rd place. Air taxi infrastructure, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Have not something I had thought of, but a very good point.
or would that be under transit? Either one.
Well, mass transit could be. But so under infrastructure, we're gonna need to have different subcommittees. Under affordable housing, I'm sure one will be transit-oriented development. One will be, government financial aid. One will be the effectiveness of the recently passed legislation, the Live Local Act. I'm sure all of you have seen the controversy if this is caused in Miami Beach.
Oh, yeah.
All of you have seen that? If you have, nod. All right, I see some not
Hollywood
nodding.
too. Hollywood too.
Yeah, what's happening is, for example, on South Beach in the old Art Deco Historic District, they're using the bill to build a or they're going to try, and I think they have the right to build a 30-story tower in the middle of all of these low-rise Art Deco buildings, because the Live Local Act specifically supersedes local zoning. So there's a lot of those issues, mass transit, first and last mile connectivity, planning for the future, again, the air taxis. I'll ask some of you. Hold on, new topic. Okay, yes, that was Daniel Samus. That right, that if that could alleviate congestion in some areas, and you can build further into the hinterlands. I would like to know, by the way, David, if you have 1 minute to comment, Broward is looking at building light rail, which is really just the light rail is really just the trolleys. Is that the best technology for us to be using as we go into things?
We can't see Mr. Deck.
Sorry.
Okay, right. And again,
Responding.
under infrastructure, again, the maintenance of infrastructure. So I see some hands up. Let me call first on Mr. Vitale.
Hello, good morning. Sorry, I'm in the car today, but I'm stopped now, so
Okay.
I can have the video on. One question I have is, as we prioritize these three and vote on the final one, should we be thinking about the availability of federal funds as it relates to these priorities? Is that an important component for us in this committee?
Yes, it is. And that's something we should consider. Obviously, there's tons and tons of money for mass transit.
Yeah.
There's a ton of money for infrastructure and very little for affordable housing. So that could be one of the factors that we take into account, because again, we're not doing this necessarily as part of the CEDS, which is to the EDA, but the South Florida Regional Planning Council is itself the Regional Economic Development District. I keep getting district and agency and the D's and the A's mixed up. So, it may be appropriate for us to be looking at things that we can get funding for, which are infrastructure and mass transit. But that does not rule out affordable housing. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. And, maybe if we're going to have those one-page briefs, we can look at, how transit-oriented development can be a component of solutions for affordable housing while also, creating infrastructure for mass transit.
As you are, or may be aware, I'm the one that passed at Broward County, the precursor to the Live Local Act that says you can add residential into commercial. You must put a certain amount of that as affordable housing, though I made it like 15% as opposed to the 40%, or you can buy out at 10,000 a unit. But I limited it again to the major transit corridors, the arterial roadways, or alternatively, the activity centers, RACs and LACs. But I gave the discretion to the local governments. I gave them the option. I didn't make them do it, although the county will give them financial incentives if they choose to do it as a permitted use. So I'm very familiar with TOD. I saw, who else had their hand up?
Dan does.
Dan, Mr. Samus.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, exactly. And kind of echoing Randall's comment regarding the air taxi, I find unique and interesting because you mentioned funding. It's those are electric vehicles, so there's always funding, potentially tax credits. It's a popular item to fund as far as electric vehicles. It's an emerging technology. Boeing is investing about $500 million into it, so that kind of makes you take notice when a Fortune 500 such as them is seeing that as kind of the next technology around the bend for mass transit as well as personal transit. And again, what Randall mentioned, how it connects to affordable workforce housing, it's a huge issue in the Keys, as it is through all of South Florida. This could potentially allow folks to hop on these vehicles, get to their destinations quickly, efficiently, and safely, and go to work and then come home. A lot of folks down here take the bus, and God bless those folks, 2-3 hours each way every day. But as Homestead, Florida City continues to grow, we're going to lose a lot of those folks in the Keys as I look forward. So it's a huge issue for us selfishly, but also I think for South Florida, Miami, and Broward as well. I think we'll face similar issues as further sprawling outside of those main regions for cost of living purposes and as other jobs and careers emerge as well. So I think we can kind of check a lot of boxes at once with a potential solution such as, you know, the air taxis. We're not quite there yet, of course, but that's why we have meetings and groups like this to plan for the future, put the infrastructure in. And when we talk about economic development, creating jobs, what a great industry to recruit to South Florida to bring that here, you know, not to the Keys, of course, but to you all up in Miami and Broward areas. You could bring thousands of high paying jobs in, manufacturing as well for these, and then it will serve our communities. So that's my 3 cents.
Dell is smiling when you're talking about thousands of high-paying jobs. But I was going to say, and Daniel, with the kind of amount of workers you're going to need down there, you don't need air taxis, you need air buses. But I'm afraid that Airbus is already a registered trademark. So, any additional comments? Dave, did you have any comments?
I think that a lot of these, I mean, like you mentioned, they're completely interlinked. I mean, if you look at affordable housing and mass transit, you go naturally to the transit-oriented development and how do we build density around those stations. I mean, do you specifically go after maybe amending legislation to exclude TODs from live local? I mean, things like that to have options. I know that the properties that we have to build around our stations, we give a little preferential treatment to affordable housing in those units, and that's a choice that we've made. And I think that we can drive that density around. I mean, it affects everything. So I think it begins and ends with TODs, really.
Well, big proponent of that, providing we're protecting the neighborhoods. So perhaps, as we play around a little, maybe we can even talk about merging affordable housing and mass transit and just doing something specifically on TOD. Don't know. Well, whatever we do will be voted on by this group before we reach a final decision. It's about 11 right now. Are there any additional comments before I close the meeting? Does anybody else have anything they want to say? Not seeing anything. I really do appreciate your being here. And I realize this meeting was called on very short notice. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks.
Rescheduled.
Right, we rescheduled it for today's date. I know my calendar books up a month in advance, and I know everybody here does the same. So I thank all of you for being here. I appreciate it. And meeting is now adjourned.
So you're gonna get some samples out of like the language that you like.
Yes, in fact, now that we're